Good morning and welcome to the Author Chat Show. I'm your host, Lynda D. Brown. This is the Tuesday morning edition of the Author Chat Show, and my guest today is author Canaa Lee. Canaa Lee. She is going to log on and chat with us about her book, Confessions of the Heart. This is a great book. We've been trying to, she was able to contact me and because we had her scheduled earlier in the year, and she decided to do some revisions. And for those of us that are authors, we understand that process, right? When we think that something's ready to go, it's always best if you do put something out there, guys, and it needs to be redone. Go ahead and take it back down and make it unavailable while you go ahead and make your edits, and then release it as a second version. You will always want to remind yourself that you want to do that. All right, so it looks like our author is available. So there we go. And good morning. And please, for our listening audience, pronounce your first name for me, please.
It's Canaa.
Canaa Lee. All right, great. And welcome to the show, Canaa. This is your first time on the Author Chat Show. So why don't we get started with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a retired math teacher. And usually when I tell people that, they say, aren't you too young to be retired? And so I use that as an opportunity to talk about my faith. And so when I became a Christian and surrendered my life to Christ in 2013, I gave up. I gave up my career and I gave up my house to come home. But I didn't know, but I was going to be a missionary to share God's word.
Okay.
And so that's kind of how I, got into all of this. I retired.
You relocated. You went back home. So did you go from one state to another?
I did. My first teaching job, when I first started teaching right out of college, I started teaching in Texas. And so I'm originally from Arkansas. I'm from a small town. Well, at the time it was about 5,000, about 2,500 now.
Okay.
And so I came back home to my hometown of Brinkley, but then I moved to Little Rock. So I'm still in my home state. So I came back home.
Exactly. Great. And Canaa, how long have you been writing?
Actually, I've been writing probably since I was in high school. When I applied for a lot of enrichment programs during the summer, and I had to write essays, and my English teacher taught me how to write. I've tried to write several books. I tried to write a book when I was 18 because the first book I tried to write was because I was supposed to be valedictorian of my graduating class, but I was denied it because I was Black. So that was the story that I wanted to write.
Okay.
That didn't work out. I wanted to write a book about relationships because I had a lot to say. That didn't work out. I've written 2 math books. They didn't do as well as I would hoped for them to. And then I wrote this book. I wasn't trying to write. Actually, I had no intentions of actually writing this book. Writing has always been therapeutic for me. It's always been something that I do to express how I feel, what was going on, relationships and broken relationships with my dad. Since I couldn't talk about it, I had to write about it.
Exactly. And I think, again, that's something that all writers can definitely relate to, especially on a personal level. All right. So tell us about the book. What's the book about?
The title is Confessions of the Heart. How I actually came up with this story was, it was a guy. It's always a story about a man. There is this guy that wanted to date me and became very upset about my faith. It made him angry. And I wanted him to understand I haven't always been this way. I haven't been always so firm on my faith. And so I said, well, maybe if I took the time to explain to you who I used to be before I became a Christian, maybe you would understand. And so as I went back into my path between the ages of 25 and 28, I wrote a lot of poetry. Now that season has passed, but that season was really rough for me with dating, and I didn't get along with my dad and the issues I had with my dad. I brought into every relationship. And so I had a lot to say. And so I said, well, if I go back into my past and I show you this, maybe you have understand. Well, as I was gathering letters and poetry, I realized, well, if I'm going to take the time to tell you, I might as well tell everybody else. I said, because it's not just something that you need to know. Everyone needs to know about, your relationships that you have with your parents, directly impacts your relationship with God, directly impacts everything that happens in your life. And so Confessions of the Heart is to tell you how I felt, how I was wrong about everything in my life. And when I encountered Christ, how everything in my life changed, but not by my own doing, not because of something I did, but because of I met the creator of the universe who transformed me. And so that's how this came in.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so how is your book? Okay, tell us, when did the book come out? Because I know we were working on the book. I mentioned before you came on the show that there were revisions to do, which is fine, because most authors don't understand that I had to take my first book down twice and do some revisions to it. So tell us how that process went and when you decided to finally publish.
Well, I didn't know. I was like, it was a toss up. You got self-publishing, and then publishing with the company. When you're looking at finances, you're like, well, let me see if I can do this on my own. And you quickly find out that everyone is self-publishing. Everyone is doing it. Everyone's doing this the same way. And when you find out that 4,500 books a day are being published on Amazon, it's extremely hard for you to get discovered. And so, I did a filter, like on Facebook. I would, put it out there to see how people will respond to it. And so the original title, What Does the Christian Look Like? Nobody wanted to hear that. And so, and then the cover of it, no one wanted to see that. So I said, okay, Lord, I need something new. I need something fresh. And I almost gave up on it. And I put it aside, and he brought me a publishing company. He brought me Christian Faith Publishing.
Okay.
And so I sent the manuscript to them, and they was like, we don't accept everybody, but we really like what you have to say. And they asked me a series of 5 questions. And the last one they asked me was, why do you think this book will sell? And I said, because the book is not about me. The book is about forgiveness and redemption, the very thing that everyone needs to hear right now. And so they took it and they published it. And so that's how I didn't stumble upon. The Lord sent me a publishing company.
Absolutely.
It showed me that he wants the story to be told, because when I took it, I dedicated and I prayed. I said, Lord, may your will be done with this. I said, it's not about me being rich and famous. It's about me using the money to be a tool so I can be able to travel and go other places and tell other people about this amazing story of redemption and forgiveness that we don't hear in its entirety.
Exactly. One of the things that you mentioned is that writing the book was very cathartic or therapeutic for you. You mentioned that there were some issues with your dad. How comfortable would you feel discussing that, especially for those, because I just had a conversation with a group of women at work, and we were talking about the issues that we have with our moms, and how my first book is actually about, a lot of that is about my relationship with my mother and how therapeutic it was for me to write that. I was able to let so much go.
Oh, yeah.
After putting it down on paper, sharing it with the world, and being able to do it in a way that was a little incognito, so that way no feelings were hurt.
Right.
So tell us how that went.
Well, I can remember my earliest, I remember when the age of 3, I was daddy's. Every girl, every woman, I don't care how old you are, wants to be daddy's little girl. And when that relationship is broken, especially when I was 3, and I remember it as if it were yesterday. And so that severed my relationship with my dad. Instead of getting better, it got worse. It was like everything I did was never good enough. I was a straight A student. I kept my nose clean. I did everything I knew how to do, and it just never seemed
to be good enough.
Enough.
Was there a divorce involved?
Actually, my dad was divorced, and when I became an adult, and I actually didn't find all of this out until he died. I actually found out the reason he was because I wanted to understand why my dad was so mean. Somebody just doesn't just wake up one day and say, you know what, I think I'm just going to be mean today. It doesn't work that way. And so what I found out was because of his broken relationship with his father and his parents.
Yes.
He brought all, because you can't clean yourself up.
Right.
You can't fix yourself. Right. I mean, so you bring all this baggage into the new life. My mom did the very same thing. My mom brought her broken relationship with her father to me. And because she was broken, she didn't want me to have a relationship with my dad because she didn't have a relationship with her dad.
Exactly.
And so I took that brokenness into a relationship, not trying to, but you know, I had trust issues with men because I had trust issues with my dad. I mean, I wanted to love my father, but nothing that I did or I said seemed to be good enough. And so that hurt turns into bitterness and resentment and unforgiveness. And all of these things are festering in your heart. And I mean, I tried to write my dad a letter. He kind of looked at it and said, well, you know, that's cool. But I was like, but I just poured my heart out to you. You know, it just never seemed to be enough. And I remember the day where, I mean, I sulked. I mean, I asked my mom, I said, why can my mom not tell me about my dad? Why can my sister not tell me about my dad? Why can no one tell me about this man that's my father and something's not making sense? And I remember the day where it was the Holy Spirit. It's even before I was a Christian, God was speaking to me. And he said to me, you know, what does my father really like? He said, send him his favorite candy, which was C's candy. I said, my mom knew this, my sister knew this. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna start sending daddy chocolate. I sent my daddy the first box of chocolate and he called me and we talked and I was like, wow, chocolate, right? And that began, the forgiveness was to realize that I had to love my father for the man that he was and not the man that I wanted him to be.
Exactly.
That's the hardest revelation, but it's the most powerful revelation that changes your life when you get to see that your parents are not perfect.
Right.
We want them to be perfect, but they're not perfect. Right. And when we understand that they're not perfect and we're not perfect, we don't get to choose our parents and our parents don't get to choose us. But and when you become a Christian, you understand that we don't get to choose anything. God gave us the parents that he wanted us to have to serve them.
Right.
But you don't learn that until that's a revelation that comes after. Absolutely. But when my dad passed away, it opened Pandora's box. It opened because my resentment, because my mom been hiding her sins, been in the dark. When my dad died, it opened up Pandora's box. I wrote my father's obituary for his funeral. And so all of these, and I had a chance to make peace with my dad before he died. I saw him 3 months before he passed away. And I was daddy's little girl. And then he passed away and then he was gone. But he made peace with God, which was the most important thing for him to get right with God. Because 2 years before he passed away, his sister, he was willing to hear what he did wrong. He had to see his wrongs and his faults and allow God to come in and clean him and restore him. And he was a brand new person before I saw him. I mean, he was nice and thoughtful and considerate, nothing I've ever seen before. And at that moment, I knew God changed my father's heart.
Absolutely.
And I said, well, wait a minute now. I understood that if God had to change my father's heart and I was wrong, that means everybody in my family was wrong. I was wrong. They were wrong. He was wrong. We got that opens up a whole new can of worms. I said, because that means a lot of the things that he was saying was actually true. That means there's lies and secrets and deception that we're holding on. There's this black fog that's over the family and we can't see God. We think that we know who God is, but we don't, because we living under the lies that we told or the misconceptions that we had and the hurt and the unforgiveness that we won't admit and we won't confess. And so my dad has been pivotal, and I knew that I had forgiven him because I was able to speak about him like I am now and not be resentful and not be angry, but be compassionate to he couldn't help who he was. He couldn't help how he was. He did not want to be that way.
Right.
But life had made him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was one of the things that I also had to find out Luckily, my aunts, my mother's sisters, shared some of their childhood with me, and that began my journey to understand the woman that how she became the woman that she was, and why she did the things that she did. One of the things that kind of hit my spirit as you were speaking about this, Kenna, was that we have to be so careful that what we're speaking of, even though, like we mentioned, these are things that our families grew up with, but you notice that they travel from generation to generation,
Yes.
and it's not a good thing. So the biblical term for that is called generational curse. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, my pastor talked
Yeah.
about that curse.
Okay. I highly recommend for anybody, you and anybody in our listening audience that might be dealing with this situation, because you want to make sure that when you have children or your children's children, that they don't go through the same and carry the same craziness to their family. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So Marilyn Hickey, and I'm not affiliated with her ministry by any way, but I know that she has a wonderful book about how to break generational curses. And the fact that you said that your minister talks about generational curses, that's exactly what a lot of that is. And unfortunately, a lot of the churches don't talk about that. And that's something that I want to look at, closer, and something that I'm working on. But I think you're absolutely right that um, we're all, the way that we turn out, we're all basically victims of our environment. Like you said, your dad had a toxic relationship with his dad, and him not knowing any better, to him that's normal. You know what I'm saying? And so then, and so this is how he decided to raise you, because he was raising you in his definition of normal. So yeah, and it's amazing that we don't understand that. But I think again that God allows us to learn things when we're ready to handle it. So a lot of us make this discovery basically when we're 40 plus and we've had kids. You know what I'm saying? And then there's a little bit more understanding. Have you have any children?
I
Uh,
don't
you don't have any children yet. Oh yeah. Well, when you go that way, remember this conversation. Because again, it's something that you want to make sure that you just don't want to pass forward. Now, I didn't get a chance to ask you this before the show. Do you have a copy of your book available? Because I'd like for you to read an excerpt from it if you have it available.
Actually, I do.
Excellent. Okay. Normally, when we're doing our audio interview, we're taking our commercial break. But right now, let me just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and put the camera back on me for a minute while you go ahead and try to find an excerpt. All right, so I'm back while she's looking for an excerpt from her book. So since I don't have audio that I hear on my live review, I will say for those authors that are looking for a way to promote your book, contact me at the Arthur Chet Show at thearthurchetShow@gmail.com. Kana, I'm hearing some background noises. Can you turn your volume down a little bit? I'm going to check mine and make sure you're not on. Well, I can't say that because we're not on the audio part of it. So we definitely need the audio and the visual. But I can actually hear the feedback on your end. I can hear myself talking on your end.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that any better?
All right. Let's see. Yes, much better.
Okay.
All right. So, did you find an excerpt?
Okay. I'm gonna read this. This is
all right. Tell us again. Could you give us the title of the book, the page, and the chapter that you're going to be reading from?
Okay. This is Confessions of the Heart, and I'd like to read the introduction because it says a whole lot here.
Okay, go ahead.
It says, each of us desires to be loved, wanted, and accepted by others. The truth is we cannot depend on or rely on people to love us the way we need to be loved, make us feel wanted and accepted the way we deserve to be loved. I always knew I had daddy issues, which directly impacted my relationship with every other man I got involved with. Most importantly, the broken relationship with my dad was the barrier that hindered my relationship with God. From the time I was 3 until 25, my relationship with my dad was a constant battle. I never felt loved or appreciated. I always felt like the butt of every joke, and nothing I did was good enough. As a child, I was overly sensitive, but as a young adult, I became arrogant, sarcastic, conceited, a hothead to overcompensate and to mask the brokenness I felt in my heart. The truth is, we cannot control how a hurt feeling manifests itself as time goes on. An unaddressed feeling grows into anger, resentment, bitterness, and misery in such a way that we are unable to control it. Now it controls us, and there is nothing we can do about it. I share this story in hopes of helping others understand their need for the Savior. Before Christ, my life plateaued and plummeted into a miserable death. I thought I was making the right decisions in dating and in life. I searched for why my father was so mean and desperately wanted to understand why. I came to a point where I recognized where there had to be more in life than working and paying bills. Who's going to help me grow? To help me get out of this rat race of life? My life was unfulfilling and I exhausted every possibility that I could think of. Now what do I do? Confessions of the Heart is an intimate account of my life. The Lord put it on my heart to share my story, to tell others of the supernatural conversion of a woman of the world that has died and the godly woman that Jesus Christ has resurrected. My thoughts and opinions that I had when I was in the world were all faulty and influenced my feelings and emotions, disappointments and experiences, and lack of guidance and explanations. Before I share the miracle, please allow me to share some of my thoughts and opinions from my past life.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, great. And tell us, the book is available in which formats?
It's ebook. It's in, I believe it's in every format. I know it's in, you can get it in copy, you can get it ebook. And the amazing thing is
that would be great.
Yeah, the amazing thing is that you can get it Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Lifeway, every outlet out there. So that's the exciting part, that when you get a publisher, they can do mass distribution for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of that, so do you have any events coming up? Any book signing events?
I do. I have one in my hometown, which I'm really excited about it. I've been praying for my hometown for a very long time because I grew up there, and God sent me back to the very place that discriminated against me.
Right.
And it was amazing to see how showing compassion to those who don't understand you, show you how love melts the hard, broken hearts of people who think they are better than you or different than you. And I got a chance to be a server. I gave up a career as a teacher and went back to be a server in a restaurant to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and to show them the light of Christ. And it just changed the whole dynamics there.
Absolutely.
And so I'm excited because the owner of the restaurant is my former piano teacher.
Oh, wow.
And she's going to host a book signing at her restaurant. So I'm going home and having a book signing in my hometown. And I'm also, the Lord put me in a new church will allow me to do leadership, and I pray that I'll get to minister and to disciple to new converts who come into the church. Mm-hmm. But the Lord opened the door for me to do a book signing at my new church too, at Trinity Assembly of God. Okay. So I'm also excited about that. So I've been praying for the Lord to open doors to allow me to share this story, because I know there's so many of us that are broken. There are so many of us that beat up. There are so many of us who can't see God because of our feelings and our brokenness. So that's why it's important for us, especially when we become a Christian, is to share what you've been through, because all of it glorifies God. Because in the midst of the storm, God is most greatly.
He's exalted. He's really exalted in the midst of a storm.
He is.
When we let go and let God. Could you do me a favor? We saw a portion of the book, but I love the book cover, and I want to talk about how you switch covers. Could you put the book right in front of your face? That way we'll be able to see the whole book. We're going to cover up your face up a little bit more. Confessions of the Heart. That is a beautiful book cover. Okay. Tell us again the story about your book cover, because you actually switch covers. And I'm like you, I love that. We talked about that.
We did.
Before you came on the show.
Well, it took a leap of faith to even want to put the story out there, because our greatest fear is what somebody might say about you, or somebody may gossip about you, or all of this. And that's all Satan. That's all Satan trying to distract you and discourage you from telling the goodness of God. Exactly. Telling about the unconditional love and mercy and grace of God. Exactly. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try something. If it fails, it doesn't matter, because it's to the glory of God. Right. And so I sat down and I said, okay, well, let me see if I can do it. Let me see how that works. But while I was what it looks like a failure wasn't a failure. It was a step of faith. So I said, okay, I'm gonna come up. Here's the title. It sounds good. I said, that's the first thing that popped in my mind, and I went with that. And so I put it out there to see if it would push, if it would sell. And I went to the church I was going to before. Now people bought it because they knew me, right? Not because because they knew who I was. So I said, well, okay, I'm gonna try this on Facebook. I'm gonna share it with some friends. I'm gonna see if I can get some feedback, and then I take it and I would put it in some groups. And there was I didn't get any feedback from that. I said, okay. I tried some other avenues. I said, well, that didn't work. I said, well, I believe. And I said, no, I believe wholeheartedly this story needs to be told. I believe it. I'm gonna pray about it. I'm gonna dedicate this to the Lord. And in the midst of the frustrations and the chaos, I learned a whole lot about, some marketing and how to write and so I learned a whole lot of things that are priceless for writing and marketing. And so I said, okay, well, since nobody's looking at it, I can take it back. I can pull it, I can take it off because no one's looking at it. It's not going to be missed. And I said, okay. And I found this amazing picture of this rose. And I said, okay, let me test it out and let me see how people respond to it. I get, oh, wow. Okay. When someone says, oh, wow. Okay. That's a clear yes, and so I changed the title because I wanted unbelievers to read it. Because my family is full on both sides. I got both spectrums. I got those who grew up in the hood, and I got those who are doctors and lawyers. I got both extremes. When you say Christian, we already have our mind made up what a Christian is, looks like. I don't want nothing to do with religion. Right. And so, okay, I don't want to really read a religious book. Yes. Okay. And so I even changed the introduction and I reformatted. I came up with a new introduction, a new title, a new this, a new that. And so I was like, confessions. What is this about? This is my confession of how I was wrong. Yeah. This is my confession of I thought I knew everything and I didn't. This is my confession of it doesn't matter how much education you have, how much money you have. None of that matters if you don't see yourself as a sinner, worthy of hell, needing to be redeemed and restored by the blood of the Lamb. That none of that even matters. So I said, okay, I need something that's powerful, but you don't see it coming. I need something that shows you that Jesus is coming, but you don't see him coming in the story. Right. A red rose. Everybody, even my pastor, when I gave him a copy, he said, man, that's a beautiful cover. Yes. And everybody would say, man, that's a beautiful cover. And I said, thank you, Lord, for giving me the idea to say, to choose this. And so that's how that came about. Right. Let me say this because like you said, okay, I can get that feedback. One of the things that I want to share with you, because we are at the time right now where we do need to grab the unbelievers. One of the things that I've been felt to hurt in my spirit as I'm listening to you is when you're dealing with the secular, like when you're tweeting, you're doing social media, I break it down to the books about relationships. The Confessions of the Heart is about my relationship with my Father. Leaving it at that, the curiosity itself will be enough to make people say, oh, let me see what this is about. Because as I mentioned before, how many of us have relationship issues? This is a book about relationship. Everybody on every level can respect and understand that and relate to that. Okay? Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, we're running out of time very quickly. Can you tell us how we can connect with you online? You can find me on Facebook. I actually have the cover, the title of the book as one of my pages. You can find me on YouTube because I make YouTube videos. I'm about to start my own radio show in January 4th called Bread of Life. And so I'm also excited about that. But you can find me on Facebook. You can find me. I don't tweet a whole lot, but I'm probably gonna have to tweet more. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on YouTube.
Wonderful, wonderful. Could you do me a favor? Email me all your contact information. I don't know your signature part of your email, and I'll put that on our Author Chat Facebook fan page so that our listening audience can reach out to you.
Sounds good. That'd be great.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for coming on the show today. You were an awesome guest. You know, and everything happens for a reason.
It does.
I think the book looks really great. I like the second people way more than the first couple. You know, everything happens for a reason. So it's just timing, not ours.
Right.
Right. All right. Any last words for our listening audience?
I want to say this, that I want to say that the most important decision that you can ever make is your decision, your eternal destination, your eternal salvation. Don't put it off to the last minute. A lot of us are putting off God because we don't want to give it up, but you don't know when your last day is up. And so I pray that you would take this opportunity and think about what's being said and what you heard, and think about your relationship with God, because no one can do it for you. You have to see the need of the Savior. And I believe that this story will help you see your need of something that you don't believe that you really need until you understand the condition that you're in. So be encouraged and stay blessed, and watch me on Facebook and Twitter for my new show that's coming up January 4th.
All right, sounds good. Well, we wish you all the best, and we look forward to seeing you come back. Are you working on anything new, book-wise, or just concentrating on getting this promoted?
I got this book, and I got an idea for another one. My brother and I are going to co-write one called Prodigy.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, you got my email address, so now just go right through the Author Chat show, as opposed to Fiverr, and we'll make sure that we get you right where you need to be with that second book.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Great. All right. Take care and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. And so that, again, our guest today was author Canaa Lee, C-A-N-A-A Lee. The name of the book is Confessions of the Heart. Again, you can find her book available in all formats, the ebook and the paperback. Well, that's our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys right back here this weekend on the Author Chat Show. Enjoy your Tuesday. Bye-bye.